It's the SWP Disciple checking in. So this is like take 6. The last one wasn't my fault though. So I was trying to do this with my AI glasses, but then by the time I got it right, I ran out of battery. And then just a moment ago, I was just about done, and then somebody I know, this is like the second person from like my old like hooping days that was like that I bumped into down here. One was as I was walking in, and then just as I was finishing up, this other cat riding by on his bike shouted out my name while riding by or whatever. So I had to start over. But I was kind of rambling anyway. So life passing me by, I do feel like it is passing me by. A couple things. So I'll just kind of start right off the rip. Got the letter from UMass Dartmouth. I mean, it's a tier 4 school anyway, but like I was not admitted, so denied admission. So it appears I'll be taking another year off. I think for like a lot of schools, this is like their last week for applications, but it's unlikely, that you're going to squeak in at the 11th hour. Usually, that last month is just to say that they had rolling admission right up until the beginning of the new school year, and or unless you were just the rare, like uncommonly qualified, like transfer in from another school and you just found them at the last moment type of thing, whatever. But they're not going to, no one's going to take someone in my situation at the end of, rolling admission. So it appears it's going to be another year on the shelf. I hope this isn't one of those situations where I look back, because like I really could use a different job, where I look back and I'm like, damn, because like my big thing is like, my job pairs very well with law school. Well, we now know like at minimum it's going to be like 2 years out of out of school. So by then, even for someone like me, I could have learned a new position and probably be coasting by the time school came back around. Well, we'll see what happens.
How you doing?
But I don't know. It's like I like my job enough and I hate looking for new jobs anyway. Most people do, unless it's like a big jump in pay. Maybe I should go to the site and see if there's anything else available. But whenever I look, it seems like it's just all like IT type positions, which, I'm not qualified for. I'm like a finance guy, not an IT guy, even though my position has a fair amount of like IT training involved in like repairing connections and stuff like that, which is super annoying, which is ironically, I don't know if it's irony, but I guess let's just say ironically, part of the reason why my colleague was fired. And you would think with the workload being compressed from like 3 of us to 2 of us, that, they'd be more appreciative. I hope I was holding the camera right before. My manager has been noticeably nicer recently, but I mean, it would be nice if they were if they were kind with a nice bonus to recognize all the additional work that me and my team lead M have been doing. So anyway, time passing me by. So there's like the law school angle. There's like, finding a new job, but I'm kind of like, my job serves a purpose, but now that it seems like that purpose is not there, at least for like not the next year, maybe I should find something else. And then yesterday, my boy C was up here from Georgia. I only see him like once a year, every other year. I think this time I'm going to see him like 3 times. So I'm probably going to see him later this week. And then his cousin, who's a lawyer, she just got appointed as a judge. So we're going to go to a ceremony for her. It's either like the end of next week or next week, which will be cool. It'll be nice to see, call her S. Her and her husband are attorneys, but she's just been appointed as a judge. So that'll be nice. So I think I'm going to see him 3 times. Usually when he comes up, I only see him like 1 time just to say that I saw him or whatever. But it's really cool. He's one of my oldest friends, like 34 years now since I moved to Springfield and he just came up from Trinidad. Real cool cat. And he was up here with his wife and his 2 boys. Little medical event with his stepmom where she kind of like collapsed. We can't tell if it was like lightheadedness, like, old folks, they get up too quick or whatever and they kind of get a little fainty, or if she just maybe had a couple. Funny enough, you'd kind of prefer that it was just a little bit of tipsiness and not anything like really, really medical. Cat's over there trying to get after it. I think I saw my first goal over here last week after all these Sundays I've been doing these walks. It's probably at like 8:20 right now, and you can see it's almost nightfall. So summer is getting away from us. Just a couple weeks ago, it was night at like 9:30 or so, and you can see it's about to be nightfall, in a few moments. Not that I'm like much of a beach bum or a rah-rah guy or whatever. I hope I don't look back at these days though, because I just kind of do my routine and stay home. And obviously being out there is intimately tied into into finding someone. But at the same time, it's like I'm holding out hope beyond hope for my ex to come back. So I'm just trying to keep my nose to the ground, but then I hope I don't look back and I'm like, well, she never returned and I just kind of wasted a lot of time and I could have met someone. As a matter of fact, my one of my colleagues from work, we're also friends outside. Like I met her for a bit for lunch down in Texas when I was down there. Of course, we all work from home for the most part. So she's from like the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And yeah, we met for lunch while I was down there. And she just texted me like yesterday, almost like angrily, like I didn't, whole cloth. I didn't prompt anything or anything like that. And she was like, oh, now I know why. So maybe it wasn't quite whole cloth. I had mentioned to her that I just got on coparents.com, which seems like a bit of a grift so far. I mean, it's only been like a week. I wanted my money back, like not even 24 hours later, but they're like no refunds. so much for that. I gotta just make the best of it. But maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. But she's like, why are you on co-parent? She's like, if you would just let go of this other girl, you could have found someone by now. She's been gone for 3 years, and it's actually by the end of the year, it'll be like 4 years. And it's like, she blocked you, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's like you're infatuated. Like, why don't you just like move on? Like, I didn't even say anything to her about that. She just immediately went there, which I guess, it's a logical connection. So yeah, I'm on coparents.com. It feels like it's a grift. It's very like low tech. The photos, to the extent that there are any, are like low resolution. It reminds me of like when I was younger and you go to a club, but they shut the door super tight. There's like a bouncer out front. There's like a little line, and you're kind of where you're like, is this jumping or what's going on? And you ask them like, yo, how is it in there? They're like, oh, it's straight, it's straight. You try to peek in as somebody's walking out and they quickly shut the door or whatever, or the angle doesn't really provide you any vantage point. It's like, yeah, the cover is $25. Like, no big deal. It's just a principle. Like, it's annoying. So whatever, you bite the bullet, you go in there and it's like empty. And then you look at them and like, yo, I thought it was jumping, and they just shrug their shoulders like, you just got. And I'm like, then I'm also like, why do you have those people outside waiting anyway? Which, it's kind of a rhetorical question, right? Because like the people outside make it look like there might be something going on inside. So even if you let them in just to kind of try to fill it up, you're not really filling it up, and then it also looks like it's empty from the outside. So it makes perfect sense if you're going to be shiesty. So yeah, that's kind of what it feels like with coparent.com or coparents.com. It's there's like a very severe paywall. So I remember in the old days with Bumble, that's how I met two of my exes that I adored, especially the last one. And you had like some limited contact, before having to like actually like buy in or whatever. Like you could kind of like each other, and they could see that. And a lot of people, like I think they became savvy after a while, and then I'm sure now it's harder to make any kind of contact. Like a lot of times it'll have blurred out like people who viewed your profile, but you can't see it until you've actually paid the 5-month fee or whatever it is that they're asking for. At least that's how co-parents is. But I put my Bumble in sleep mode as soon as I met my ex, because I was like, all right, I think I'm done. But back in the old days, you could actually participate for free, and then paying for the subscription was really just for like the extra, boosting your profile, more photos, things like that. But then they realized what people were doing is kind of putting hints about their IG in their profile. So you could just kind of peruse and then just go right to their IG or whatever. I remember doing that a couple times back in the day. I think I still have a couple friends from there that I met. Like they don't necessarily remember how we met, but like they followed me over to IG or whatever. And then we've just been friends like the last 7-8 years or whatever. I'm thinking of one in particular in Boston. And, you could kind of like each other. And then, most people these days have like a Facebook or an IG. So you can kind of figure out someone's handle or go and look for them based on certain hints, because everyone tried to place little hints because they didn't want to pay the subscription fee. And then you just find them in Facebook, IG, and then just never subscribe, there, save yourself the $40 a month or whatever it is. But now, co-parents is like a very severe paywall. So it's like, all right, so this has got to be jumping, right? But then you quickly realize once you pay for it, like half the people have no photos. A lot of the women, it's just like a microcosm of like regular life, right? So clearly you're there because you haven't found the person that you want to have children with or whatever, or it's not really popping off in your regular life just organically, but you still get the feeling that the women, they feel like they're the prize, for lack of a better term. And some of them are like, yeah, I just want a co-parenting situation. I don't want a relationship, da da da. So you know what that is? That's just siloing the means of production, or what's the word that they dual mating strategy. That's what it is. So because that gives them like a free license. You don't even have to disguise it. The guys that they want to deal with or whatever, they can just kind of sleep with them freely, and the kid part is taken out of it. They don't have to worry about like creating a child or anything like that, or like trying to forge a better relationship. They're like, all right, I'm just gonna get what I can get. And then the other like retention guy, he can be there for the child and possibly pay child support, or at least be the doting father and be the other half of the parental unit or whatever. And I'm not saying that from like a prudish way anyway. I mean, I'm pretty much barreling towards probably not being married myself as much as I believe in it, and probably doing something non-traditional. But you get that idea there. And then there's some that are like gay couples and they just want like a sperm contribution, actual like regular like heterosexual couples, but I don't know if maybe like the guy can't produce whatever, and everything else in between. And then those that do have photos, as you might imagine, there's no runway models or even print ad models there or whatever, right? So it's I kind of did it. It wasn't on impulse. I thought about it for a while. It was actually on the suggestion of an old roommate who herself just had a child like maybe a year or two ago and is pregnant with another. Sadly, her first child has Down syndrome, which is crazy. I remember years ago we were kind of thinking about like, yeah, maybe we should produce a child together, da da da. Not saying that would have happened with me, and I actually think usually Down syndrome comes from the father, right? From the father's contribution or sperm. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV. But I feel so bad for her, and I said, I expressed condolences. She didn't even tell me until like months after she told me she had a child. And she's like, oh, it's no big deal. Like, she didn't say it quite like that, but she's like, yeah, love them the same, da 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 da, whatever. Which those could just be words, but she seems to be taking it in stride. I know that there's varying levels of Down syndrome, but I know even at the top end, you're talking like a 90 IQ or something like that. So you're talking about basically having a child for life for the most part. So that's tough. That is something that I worry about, where it's like, as much as I want children, what if it comes with, I don't know if curse is the right word, but it comes with like, a negative because you were trying to like, I guess go against God's will or something like that. It's all on the table at this point. What a nightmare that would be, right? If like, after all these years, so no companionship, and you just try to, make it happen with whoever, and then the child comes out with like a pretty severe disability. I have a couple friends who have children who are like autistic, like real autistic though, not like just mildly, like you can tell. And it's funny because like I talk to them, and then if they have other children, they're like, yeah, I think you're gonna go to college and go here and there. One of my close friends, his daughter's like doing really well, and she's going to like Amherst, which is like a really nice liberal arts college. And then his other son, who's coming up behind her, I think he's probably 13 now or so. And he's like, yeah, I don't know if he's gonna go to college or whatever. And I recognize that tone from another friend of mine in the same situation. So I'm like, not that there's anything wrong with doing like the trades or something else. It doesn't have to be college, but let's be real, right? Especially as black folk, you probably should be sending your kids to college and following like that, I don't know, like Nigerian or Asian model or Indian model. They don't even, it's like no discussion. Their kids are just going to like law school, medical school, engineering school, and that's that. So I worry about that. But at the same time, I have no brothers and sisters, so, and I very much so want children regardless, even that aside. So pretty high stakes. But anyway, that's not going to solve itself in the next day or two, whatever. So I'm not going to stay on that for too long. But yeah, this week it got me seeing all the kids running around and stuff, and then obviously getting the news from UMass Dartmouth. It's concerning too because again, that's like a tier 4, right? It's not even. They might even be ranked lower than my other school, WNE, right? I have like literally I'm down to like the last couple tricks up my sleeve. I think I'm going to do like the JD Next program, which essentially is like a law school preparatory type program, and once you get your score at the end, it's kind of like an alternative to the LSAT, which my LSAT score was fine. It was a 154. I know had I applied myself better and like if I wasn't, working a full-time job and yada, 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 whatever excuse you want to put to it, I could have gotten into the 160s. I felt it was like a fait accompli that I was going to get into law school because I knew the people writing the letters for me, and it was a school that I went to for undergrad. So I wasn't sweating it too much. Obviously, if we only had a crystal ball, right, you kind of understand the stakes of things, but that's not how life works. But anyway, I am walking back home. I got to figure this whole thing out. I got a surprise from did I mention at the top? I've redone this video like a couple times, so I can't remember what I said at the top, but big dental bill addendum that I got hit with. Not big, but big enough that it can kind of throw some things out of the loop. I think a vacation the latter part of the year is all but done. And as far as the car, I was already kind of leaning towards that just because it's so far apart. Even if I sell my car, I still have to add like another 40 grand to it. So I think that's out the window. The funny thing is I don't think next year even changes that much unless I run into some money. We might be talking about waiting until I'm done with law school, which, cars are kind of a big deal to me. That's a huge thing to essentially not have to look forward to, right? Because we're talking like another year off and then 4 years of law school. So 5 years from now, it's like, I'm sure I'll always love cars, but like I've seen it happen with other people where they just kind of fade away. And then before you know it, they're driving a minivan or just some regular like crossover. And that's all she wrote, right? And it's a wrap. That could easily be on the table in 5 years from now. I don't see it, but everything is on the table at this point. But so yeah, usually, as you know, every January I get like some dental work done or whatever, and then I got they denied it this year for whatever reason. So yeah, an extra $4,300. Not the end of the world. I can handle it. It's just it's annoying, and it's kind of hard to recoup $4,300 from somewhere else, especially when I've essentially set my budget for the rest of the year already. But anyway, first world problems. So let's enjoy the rest of this weekend, what's left of it. I have more to say. I'm doing my British passport right now because I thought I was going to be going on vacation until, that bill came through, that denial, which is oddly from January. So they've been slow rolling that since for 6 months now. But anyway, we can talk about that another time. The Lord is faithful. Stay with me. God bless.